Perspective. How does it work? Why do we need to learn it? And I will show you how. Let's go. Hello everyone, my name is ARTEXTRIC, and today we're going to learn about how to do perspective. Now, I'm going to explain this in the most basic way I know, so do not take this as an advanced thing. Some of you, this may be advanced, but others, it may be something quite simple. If you know how to do this, then maybe this tutorial won't be technically for you, but it's good to brush up on your basics. Perspective is a very tricky thing, but it's not the most impossible thing to not grasp. It just depends on how you perceive it. Now, the way I perceive the idea of how perspective works, there are two things you must learn, or at least one of these two. Number one is something called the horizon line. So the horizon line is basically your eye line. So your horizon line is literally this line. This is your horizon line. So your horizon line is literally your eye level. Okay? This is where your eyes are literally looking. This is what your eyes is seeing, and that's the level of where your eyes are at. Okay? There's no trick to it. That's literally where your eyes are looking. Now, there's something called a VP, meaning a vanishing point. This is where we're going to be using to put focus on how things are going to look, where things are going to be applying back to the horizon line in any which way. Now, before we get into that, you must learn something that there's always somewhat of a flip of the dime. So if you want to know if you're looking up or down on something, I think the best way to learn this is use a square, because a square is more precise than a circle. I'll probably have to do a video on a circle, another video, because that's a little bit more complicated, a bit advanced, to be honest, in my opinion, even for me sometimes. So we're just going to use a box. So a box, depending where you put the box, will indicate where we're looking. Now, let's just say we put the box about, I'll use something simple like this. You don't have to draw it out, but I'll put a box up like here, and I'll put a box down here. Now, because there's two boxes, what we want to know is that if we want to look up at something, we need to understand that our vanishing point on a horizon line will dictate how that is based on where the object is. So if I want to look up and knowing that I'm looking up at something, the horizon line, or the subject, needs to be over the horizon line, or if I want to look down on something, it has to be under the horizon line. Now, to really push this theory, to make sure I'm telling you the truth, all you have to do is take, and it doesn't matter where we put the vanishing point, the VPs or vanishing points. We could put it, we can have as many vanishing points as we want. It does not matter. It's the only thing that matters, that dictates majority of anything, is your vanishing point, is your horizon line. Sorry, I almost said the wrong thing. So I'm going to put, say, and make it easy for easy's sake, I'm going to put the vanishing point right here, okay? And then I'm going to take a line, and then I'm going to pull this line. We're going to start at the corners, so you guys can see it better. I start at the corners of our shape, 1, 2, going back to our horizon point. And then we're going to take the other one, 1, 2, okay? And now, to really push this, to make this, like, what I'm saying makes sense, we're going to, yeah, put it there. We're going to put a line straight off under our subject, so we can, like, make it into a box. So I'm going to take the line again, and I'm going to put a line here, straight, not curving or anything, straight like that. And all I'm going to do is get rid of the lines that's going to our vanishing point, okay? So we already made our shapes and everything. Now the only thing we need to do is this. We need to make sure that if we're looking up at something, we're usually looking at the bottom of it, or from an angle that seems like we're looking up at it, right? So because the box is over our horizon line, over our eye level, we have to look up, right? And because we're looking up, we can see the bottom of it right there. Easy as pie. Oop, there we go. Easy as pie, right? So that indicates to me that I can see the bottom. I can see the bottom of the object, but I can't see the top of it. I can't see the ceiling. I can't see the literal top of the head of the box. I can only see the bottom of the box, okay? If we was doing it more sideways, we would probably see the bottom of the box, but also the side of the box if it was sideways. If we was, but we won't be able to see the top of the box at all. That also reinforces the same thing with looking at from a top angle down onto it. So if I know I'm looking down onto something, is that I can see the top of the head of the box at the bottom of our horizon line, under our eye level, okay? And because I can see the top of our box, I cannot see the bottom of the box. See that? Simple. Because I can't see the bottom of the box, I can only see either the top parts of it. That means I'm over it in some shape or form. You cannot see something from the bottom of it when you're at the very top of it. That's virtually impossible, okay? So that's how that's placed in that sense. Now, you see, now some of you will ask, but teach, what if the box is on top of the horizon line, which is possible. So what will happen is if the box is on top of the horizon line, which I'll show you in 2 seconds, and if the box is on top of the horizon line and the VP, for whatever reason, at the same time, or at all, what's going to happen is everything's going to be super neutral. So if, say, for instance, you draw a character on top of the horizon line, or several characters, depending, what will happen is you won't see the top, you won't see the bottom, but you'll definitely see either maybe the sides, maybe the sides, or right in front of it. That's it. You're going to see, it's going to be neutral. So you can't see the very top of their head or their shoulders, and you can't see under the crotch of their feet. So they're going to be perfectly normal. Like if you draw any character standing, you can't see the very top of their head. You can see their head, you can see their feet, but you can't see under it, like the very soles of their feet, or under the flattening of their feet, or the very top of their head at the very peak. Okay? I hope that makes sense to anyone who's listening to this, per se. Let me see. Like here. So everything is totally normal at that point. There you go. So that's how that works. Or so. Okay, so that's where that is. All right, we established that the horizon line dictates mainly everything and anything we do. Now, there's something called perspective placements and stuff like first, second, third perspectives, which we will talk about in a second. I'm just going to mention those three only, and then I think we're going to stop it from there because we don't want to get overwhelmed because something like perspective could be very confusing. I think that's just going to keep it basic like that. And then once we get those out of the way, we will move on to something else. And then once we get through the basics of the fundamentals, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to them again, or some of them, and go more advanced topics on those things, just to see if we can brush up anything or apply any new techniques if possible. Okay, so let's jump into that in a second. Let's go. We're going to do about first, second, third perspective, what makes them different, how do they work, and why would you use them. The first one is going to be the most easiest because you're just doing one thing and one thing alone. You can make a whole room by just doing 1 point perspective, but we're not going to do that because that's going to take too long. I'm going to keep it simple, so what we'll do is just make a basic road. Just something really basic. So we put a dot right here, as you can see. We can use this big thick dot. And then all we need to do, this might take some pizzazz on your end. If you're doing traditional, you will need a ruler for this. But if you are using like, I don't know, something like the symmetrical tool on Clip Studio Paint, I think Photoshop has that, but I'm not totally sure. You can make this pretty equal pretty fast, but let's just say you don't have it. We'll just have to do it the old-fashioned way. So we'll take a line like this, 1, 2. Now, the thing is here, I wouldn't use a really thick line. I think the thinner I feel like the thicker the circle, the little less accurate things will be because, you know, but then again, I think that's just my personal preference, but I would use a very small circle. It's simple, one like this. All I have to do is just literally erase this way based on the lines that we have. That's going towards that particular way. Now, remember, a horizon line can be placed virtually anywhere, and our VP can be always posted on that horizon line. As long as we follow those two main rules, we won't have too much of a problem. This is where things get just tedious to a degree. And to prove that what we're doing makes sense is that I'm going to make some lamps. I'm not going to make a lamp. I'm going to make a line that goes back to that particular place. I'm trying to keep it as basic as possible. Okay, so like if I were to make a line here, make a line here, make a line here, and abide it like this, you can see that there's a bit of like a foreshortening thing that's happening, right? You see how that's going? These are fake lamps, I'm just saying, but like just look at it for what it is, like here and here and here, like that. We can do it like that. I think the lines can actually pass through this, like if I made it like this. So say like if I did it like this, right? If I did it like this, let's just make this real quick. Okay, like this, this, this. Then right there, as you can see, if I erase this and make this a little more prettier, which I'll time skip on. And as you can see, it's like this T-Mobile thing that's happening. Like the lines are going, it's getting smaller. But to be clear here, the fake looking lamps are actually all the same height. They may not seem to be, but they are all the same height. The only reason why they look different is because, I wouldn't say it's distortion, but like as things go into the distance, they get smaller, but their size is still the same. So you could be a 6-foot dude, which I mentioned in a video before. You could be a 6-foot dude or a 5-foot dude or a 10-foot dude, doesn't matter. You can be a shack. And you can be, if you're more closer to the horizon line than closer to me, you're going to look smaller because of the distortion of distance than actually his size. So he can be the same size, but he can still look small within the distance of how further he gets. That's just the rule of things. So when something's close to you, it's much bigger. So if you take your hand and put it in your face, right, and then you push your hand into the distance, the hand is not as big as it was before when it's up on your face. So it's a foreshortening type rule to that degree. So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to distance, when it goes towards you as the camera, or towards the horizon line, or more closer to the horizon line. Things will get smaller by comparison. I will draw people in a more advanced thing when we know how to place them, but this is just keeping things basic. So I will do another video on perspective in the future, don't worry. I will do that, don't worry, I got you. So what we can do is copy, paste for the other side, and then we can say, we can take this, flip, and just put it right here. So we have our road of lamps, our lamp road, going back to our subject, pretty much. So that's what that is. It's going towards the focal point. That's what that really is. So it doesn't have to be a road. It could be virtually any situation where you're doing an action pose or an action anything, and it can just go back to that particular place. So it doesn't have to look exactly like this, but it can be close to this. So keep that in mind. But keep it really basic. Look at some references of 1-point perspective. You'll be surprised how much you can get away with just 1-point perspective and have some dynamic type artwork to do, or at least some sketches to see. I would check on Pinterest as a perfect example of this. So yeah, now we're going to jump over to 2-point perspective. I'm going to make another line there because I was on the wrong layer. Anyway, now since we're on our 2-point perspective, what we're going to do now is we're going to put 2 points up the end. I'm going to make them red so it makes it easier for you guys to see this. Now, 2-point perspective, just based on what we're talking about when we say perspective, 2-point or 3-point, what they're actually saying is how many VP or vanishing points are on sorry, I'm getting sick, are on the horizon line, right? So it kind of just explains itself. It's self-explanatory. So it's 3-point perspective, 3 points on the horizon line. 1-point perspective, 1 point on the horizon line. 2-point, you get the 4-point. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, now because we know that we need 2 points on our horizon line, all we need to do is make sure they're both working. I'm going to use a line like this, right? Just like what we did technically before with the roads, but this time we're doing it differently, slightly different like this. And then I'm going to use the opposite color so it's much easier so you don't get confused. Now you can do it like that, or you can do it like this. There's a faster way of doing this. So you can put in your lines at the bottom, and I think if you take copy, paste, I think it's vertical, and then you do it like this. It's like a more faster way of doing things. And then what you can do now is I would merge these two lines, and then I will say copy, paste, and flip, or horizontal. There we go. So we have our 2-point perspective on both ends of our spectrums. Now, what makes this a little bit tricky is that you have to keep something in mind when it comes to 2-point perspective, that because there's more horizon vanishing points, the issue that you have to keep in mind is that if you make your vanishing points too close, they will distort if they're related to each other to a degree. So like if, say, I put the horizon line, or I put this very close, like this close, like here, I hope you guys can see it, and then I make a blue box, the box is going to look very distorted, and that's where that problem comes in. I'll make it a little bit more thinner so you guys can see it better. Like, there we go. The box is going to look really, really like distorted and weird, okay? So keep that in mind when dealing with this situation. So to avoid any form of distortion or any issues, I suggest to keep the horizon line, the VP, as far away from each other as possible, because the more further away they are from each other, the more natural looking and lot accurate your drawing will look. That's something to keep in mind. So the closer they are, the more they'll distort. The more further they are, the more natural they'll look. So if I put this back, right, and I made a box, let's just make this a tad bit further away, just for the hell of it, just about here. And for those who are doing traditional, what most of you may not know is that you may have to do this with a piece of paper off the regular paper. So some artists will use like 3 pieces of paper, tape them together, and then do it that way. It's a pain in the butt, I understand. Unlike digital, you can kind of like, finesse your way a little bit more easier. But, you're going to need a ruler per se. If you're really good at eyeballing it, if you practice this enough, then this shouldn't be too much of a problem for you. So, yeah. Okay, so let's just put in the quick box right here. I made a mistake. I keep writing on the wrong layer. My bad, guys. So right here, and then right here, and then here. All right. Now, just to make it less distorted or seem distorted, I'm going to This is where I always hold shift. So if you're wondering why is my line so like perfect, I'm using the line tool, but I'm also holding shift. So they are a lot more straighter compared to if I did naturally, it'll look a little wiggly. Or if you have stabilization on, that also works too. So that's also a thing you can do. So I'm going to turn this down real quick, and I'm going to erase the sides that we don't need anymore, because even if I erase the sides, these are more, the box is accurate to what it's supposed to be. There you go. So we have ourselves our natural box. I'm sorry for all the jump cuts. I'm sorry about that, but I was making a bunch of mistakes, but this is me winging it. So I should have practiced a little bit more before I did this. So that's my fault. Anyway, the point is, yeah, so we have our perfect box, right? And because we have our perfect box, it looks really natural, right? Right? Now, remember what I mentioned to you guys before. The box is on top of the horizon line. So we're not seeing neither the top nor the bottom. Like I said, it still follows these rules. Even though we're doing it a little differently, it still follows those rules. So to even add to this more, I'm going to make a box real quick. I don't really need the horizon line thing right now. I'm just doing this real quick, or I'll put in blue because I don't want you guys getting confused. Yeah. So if I do it like this, I hope you guys can see this well. I'll make a box right here. And as I'm making said box, you can see, it's a little bit distorted, but that's not the point. You can see that we can see the bottom of it because we're looking at the bottom of it because the horizon line is over the horizon line. See? We don't see the top of the box. We see only the bottom. Right? That makes sense, right? So if I were to draw, say, a box again here, I'll put it under each other so there's no confusion. If I put a box here, almost on the same placement, the rule is that I can see the top, or at the bottom. I can't see the bottom, but I can see definitely the top. I can see the top of our box because our box is under the horizon line, like I said before. And going back to our original box that we made at the very beginning, our box is we can't see neither the top or the bottom of our subject. So this can apply to a character, this can apply to an object, this can apply to an animal. Everyone by natural ability follow and serves to the same rules whether they know it or not. So I hope this was helpful to that degree. We're going to move on to third perspective, and then we're going to end it right there. So I'll be right back. This is going to be a bit more tricky for me when it comes to 3-point perspective because it could be a little bit, it can really throw you really off. So like I said, it's just like if we made 2-point perspective, but there's going to be a bit of a twist. But once we get to that point, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now I'm going to make some lines. I'm going to make one line actually, and just make this easier on myself. And I'm going to make the lines a little bit more thinner. I don't think it should be that thick. I think it should be like a lot thinner, like this, and then like this. First, I think you should establish a 2-point perspective first, like we did before for this 3-point perspective, believe it or not, like that, right? Now I'm going to, there we go. Now I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste, I'm going to flip, and then push this back more there. And then what's going to happen, I'm going to put a dot down here. Now this is where things get a little interesting and insane. But before I do, I'm going to make a line that goes like this. Now I know that this is a little hard to see, so I'm going to change the colors so it's a little more easier to see, at least in some shape or form, like that. And then I'm going to make the other color like an orange or a purple. Maybe purple's best. Like this. Hope this doesn't cause any real trouble too much. So I'm gonna do lines like this, that. It doesn't matter how many lines I make. They don't have to be symmetrical at all. They just have to come right back, converging back to the same line. So remember that when doing something like this. So I would pull it down a little bit more. Well, I can't now. We're stuck here now. So, okay, so what's going to happen now, I'm going to make the lines. I'm going to take a dark blue so everyone can see it, or a light blue, depending. And I'm going to make a box. But what makes this box different is that I'm going to use the lines that's converging back to our line. So, like, now, as you can see, we're watching everything in a 3D space. Now, it's a bit distorted. I can say that probably I'm too close to the VP. I can make this a little bit more better by going up here and then working my way with the lines that are here. And it looks a little bit more natural, still a bit distorted, but you get what I'm saying. See, the distortion part doesn't actually mean you're wrong, it just means it's very exaggerated. If that's not something you're looking for, then I suggest try to push the lines even more further away, almost off paper if possible, which is possible, especially if you're using like Clip Studio Paint. They have a perspective tool. I'll probably explain that in a future video. I think that will just take like 5 minutes to explain, especially if you apply these concepts to that. It's not going to take that long. But things will be pretty fixed. But anyway, so as I'm making the boxes, you can see, even if it's wacky enough while we use 3-point perspective, you can still see it adheres to the rules as I mentioned before. Okay, so as I'm making the box, as best as I can, I'm not really trying to be super accurate right now, but I'm just making the box for the sake of like the point of the concept. As you can see, that once again, for this box here, we can see the bottom, but we can't see the top. As for this box here, we can't see top nor the bottom because it's on the horizon line. Or we can see the side of it depending on what you're drawing, because if you're drawing sideways, you're going to obviously see the other side of it. That's common. But if you're directly in front of the horizon line without any curves, you'll see just directly in front of yourself. Now back to here as well, we can see the sides here, and the face. Per se, actually no, that's a lie. I almost skipped the rule. Because our box is literally under the horizon line, we can see the top of it. Same thing as here, we can see the top of here because it's under the horizon line. But we can't see the bottom of it because since it's under, even if we're looking at it now in a more three-dimensional space, we can't see the bottom of it because it still adheres to the literal horizon line, or the rules of the horizon. So that's how you make 3-point perspective. Like I said, I'll do in a future video me drawing people and putting them in places and how to make them feel more natural and stuff like that. That will happen. And this is not something I am too good at, but I will do it for you guys because I know this is something that really plagues a lot of people, even myself. It's just out of laziness why I just don't do this, but like, I know if I really put the effort in doing it, I can really pull some crazy like artwork. So I might do that in the far future. Now talking it out loud now. But yeah, so this is how you do 3-point perspective. So the difference between it, you technically do a 2-point perspective type thing where you make 2 points on the horizon line, but what makes it slightly different from the 2-point is that you put a 3rd point at the top or at the bottom. It doesn't have to be down here. It could be at the very top, but it has to be further away from the horizon line. It has to be away from the VP. It can't be super close, because if you get it super close, you're going to get super distortion like this one. So if this was more further down, I believe that the box would be a lot more natural. All 4 of them. They're somewhat distorted, but they're not that distorted to the point that it looks super cartoony unlike this one. So the quick recap for everything we just did, I hope we was able to establish to you guys to understand what is a horizon line, which is the eye level, what is a vanishing point, which is the point that we need to know where it relates to the horizon line, how to understand if we're looking up or down onto a subject using that horizon line, and I hope I was able to establish first, second, and third perspective in a way that makes it easy for anyone to digest and apply to your works. Now, like I said, I'm not a big environmental or background artist. This obviously shows most cases, but I think these are important things to know if we want to be very accurate. Remember, it's mostly on the idea of the accuracy of how to keep things in place. Most cases, you can usually eyeball it, but most of the time you should use perspective. It really does make things a lot more easier. It's just tedious. That's usually what makes it actually complicated. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please leave a comment if this video helped you. If not, please touch upon what didn't, what did. I would love to hear what you have to say. Please interact with the video, like, subscribe, share, follow, and comment, all that extra stuff that we all talk about all the time. But literally, guys, I'm looking for feedback. I want to know if you guys are actually learning from this, if this is a waste of your time, was this too basic, or would you want more advanced techniques or videos on this, or this was good enough for you to understand. I hope this was easy to digest, but this topic is a very complicated topic because it can lead to a situation where things can lead to a road, meaning it's going to complicate it for itself. Oh, and also, if you want to support me in these videos, please go to Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon. It will really be helpful if you guys support me there so I can make more of these videos. So the more you guys support me on those, it's really small donations or at least subscriptions, so I can do more videos like this and stuff like that. I might even do traditional work as a form of tutorials. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. But thank you guys. I appreciate it very much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.